Lock up your children, listeners. It's Mid-Table Crisis with me, Tom Patrick.
And me, Simon Cross. Now, this is part 2 of our little end of season review, and we're going to cover some of the stuff we didn't cover last time, mainly because I hadn't finished yet. So what exactly are we doing today, Tom?
I don't know, mate. I've just woken up. No, we're going to be having a look at the season just gone. So we'll be having a little look at the Champions League, the Championship, do a little tour of Europe, and we'll finish off with our stars of the season, the players that have really impressed us in 2013-14.
That's true. Both for good and not so good reasons, of course. We'll be becoming the infamous as well as the famous, I suppose, in this section.
Yeah.
I'll give you both sides of the coin. So, as I say, we'll start with the most illustrious competition in
the
club
Championship.
Football. Indeed, the Championship, with the most expensive payoff game. So, obviously those who went up automatically, as we all already well know, are Leicester and Burnley.
Yeah.
And QPR joined them through the hook or crook route of the playoffs.
Yeah, and me and Simon watched this one live, and it wasn't exactly a joyous occasion for either of us. We really did want
Derby.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really did want to see Harry Redknapp in tears, but yeah, we did want to see Derby get promoted as well. But yeah, I'm not looking forward to seeing Harry Redknapp back in the Premier League. Although, can you just imagine what his shortlist is like for players? I mean,
oh, because it's not ridiculous already at QPR. Well, I mean, have you seen their wage bill? It's beyond belief.
It is, but they're going back up to the Premier League. He's going to get his little black book out. He's going to be calling up everyone and anyone and scouting the French leagues for a third choice goalkeeper will be on 70 grand a week. It is going to be mayhem. But I suppose we can look forward to that a little bit as well. But as I say, I think we both would have preferred to see Derby up there. And they had a good chance. I mean, Gary O'Neill got himself sent off relatively early on. And you'd have thought Derby would have pushed on and snatched a goal.
Especially because they were the highest scorers in the Championship during regular season as well.
More so than Leicester. Oh. Well, I mean, they've got a lot of attacking verve. You know, some of the players they had on the pitch. Yeah, I mean, Patrick Bamford on loan from Chelsea, he's been a revelation. And
absolute revelation.
And it makes you think if Chelsea hadn't had Lukaku and Bamford on loan, maybe they actually would have had a couple of decent strikers at the club. But anyway, it just felt as the game wore on, Derby was knocking on the door and they just couldn't quite break it down, and you knew something was going to happen. You just know in that situation something's got to give.
You start feeling it in the pit of your stomach, don't you?
Yeah, if it gets to 70 minutes and you've been playing against 10 men and you've been having every attack but it's just not going in, then you're really wondering, is this our day? And big Bobby Zamora knocks one in with seconds to go, really. It was unbelievable. It must have been so gutting for some of the Derby fans who I know listen to this. Devastating.
Some of them who I know went to the game as well. So to see it live, that heartbreak.
Yeah,
it's not fantastic. I've just looked it up because you cast a little bit of doubt in my mind. Derby were indeed the top scorers in regular season, but it was close. They had 84 goals to Leicester's 83.
Yeah, wow. So yeah, they ran them close.
That's true. They ran them close in terms of goals, but as I say, it makes all the difference. It doesn't make any difference until when you're in the final game.
Yeah, and I think it's very harsh in Derby. I mean, you could argue that QPR were up in the fight for promotion for a long time. They did fall away a little bit. But
QPR were more expected to go up, I believe, purely because of their wage budget and the fact that the players they had, ultimately.
And the amount of Premier League appearances, they had over 600 Premier League appearances in that team. I mean, Rob Green, Nico Cranshaw, Bobby Zamora, O'Neill, we're talking a lot of pedigree in that team. Joey Barton, not a nice man, but a good player.
Rob Green.
Yeah. You've got to... I think what was definitely on my mind was that a lot of those players are probably just past their peak, and Derby could with a bit more youthful exuberance, could maybe just overrun them. But in the end, they managed to hold out. I mean, Rob Green had a good game. You can't fault him. Joey Barton played well. I mean, Zamora, he's the kind of player you want in that situation. He only really had one good chance, and he finished it.
And he took it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, yes. I mean, as I say, QPR, fair play to them. They did manage it. I mean, it's not the result I always wanted, but we have to give credit where it's due. They're there now. I don't think they'll be there for very long. I just don't see their model as in any way sustainable for the Premier League.
No, and I think what they'll probably do when they get to the Premier League, which is a bit like what they've been doing anyway, is getting in older, experienced players, and they'll try and do that to keep themselves up. But I don't know, to be honest. I think they'll struggle to survive this season, and even then, after that, I'm not sure, because it's not that attractive a club, I don't think. Yes, they're based in London, yes, they've got a lot of money, but there's a lot of other clubs around them who are probably in a better situation, and they don't really strike me as that much of a team, more of a collection of individuals, very talented individuals, but
individuals nonetheless.
Yeah.
Now, it's funny that you mentioned survival. I mean, obviously, we've touched on QPR. I think we've both already pinned our colours to that particular mast, saying that they're unlikely to stay up. What are your thoughts on the other team? I personally think Leicester, if they make the right signings, should be okay. But your thoughts?
I don't think Leicester need to add that much. I think they just benefit from a bit more strength and depth, and maybe one or two quality players. I'd say 4 or 5 very good signings, and they'd be fine. Because I think Nugent can score goals in that division if you give him the opportunity, and if he goes on a decent run. I think they've got a strong midfield. For some reason they signed Matthew Upson, who I'm not sure if he's a Premier League player anymore, but I mean, fair enough.
He's got Premier League experience, which will help.
He has, but I mean, was he 33, 34? So he'll be a little bit past his best these days, I'd say. I mean, he didn't look great for West Ham when they went down a few years ago. So he'll definitely do a job.
35, Matthew Upson.
Yeah, so I'm just not sure if he's Premiership quality anymore. But yeah, I'd say they probably need to strengthen the defence up a little bit.
To be fair, he is, however, the last England player to score at a World Cup. A truly unique honour.
Yeah, well, not in hopefully not in a week's time. But yeah, of course, and to be fair, I think Lampard actually was the last one to score, but it didn't count, did it? So, c'est la vie.
So I was going to say c'est la vie. I mean, Lampard should have been the last one, or if beyond that, but ifs and buts and maybes and what have you, we've got to put that ghost to rest.
But I'll just say this as well. If you actually do look at Upson's position for at least 2 of the goals against Germany, he was absolutely nowhere. He was the cause of more goals for Germany than he was for England, certainly. Put it that way.
True. But as I said, they made a couple of signings. I mean, Upson a bit peculiar in our eyes, I believe, but
yeah.
I think they should be okay. Nigel Pearson's got a good setup there, and he knows what kind of players he wants. I mean, obviously, it's a little bit of a guessing game at this moment because the transfer window's got a good couple of months to run.
Yeah.
So it's 7 more weeks whilst it's open now. So there's only so much we can think of in terms of squad depth and how well they've done.
I think the important thing is for them not to panic as a club and as a team. And by that I mean, if Pearson gets a few defeats, don't chuck him out the door because he knows what he's doing. And also, they need to realise that things won't work straight away. I don't think it's a good idea if they go crazy in January, a bit like Fulham did getting in Mitroglou for 11, 12 million, and he barely kicked a ball. I don't think he scored a goal, certainly.
Well, we covered the Mitroglou issue. I mean, it's not just the fact they spent all that money on him; it's the fact that the manager they ended up with didn't think he was any good. But I see your point. You don't want to have too many cooks and too many players spoiling the broth.
Exactly. And I don't also think it's not a great idea to sack the manager, which is of course something that happens quite often with teams that get promoted to the Premier League. They don't have that great a start, and they lose a manager. I mean,
out the three of the teams that have come up, though, I think it's Redknapp that's most at risk of that, because we've touched on Pearson. He's just recently signed a new contract. The team seem to like him. Burnley with Sean Dyche, they're willing to back him quite all the way. So
yeah, I think thing is with QPR, I think I'm not sure if Redknapp would still be in a job if he didn't get promoted. I think he was brought in probably on quite high wages himself, and told to just get them back up there. And
so
that's what he was. That was his job, and he just about managed it. I mean, it wasn't the easiest route. At the start of the season, a lot of people were tipping QPR to
win the whole thing.
Yeah,
and they looked like a threat for a while, but they just couldn't get it together.
No, I think Leicester had a better team, and Burnley definitely seemed to have a bit more about them when it came to the big games. And to be honest, I felt bad for Burnley because I thought they might just miss out, but it was okay in the end because Ings and
Vokes,
they both got injured towards the end of the season, but fortunately they'd already got enough points so they were nearly over the line. But it would have been devastating for them if Burnley hadn't quite made it because they'd done so well for most of the season. And of course a lot of that came down to Ings and Vokes, so it's good to see they've got promoted.
That's true, and as I say, as we previously mentioned, a good couple of teams out of those three have a chance of staying up as well. Looking at the other end of the championship table, though, it's amazing how close Birmingham came to going down. I mean, it was goal difference in the end. Admittedly, a significant enough goal difference not to be a wafer thin edge, but we nearly lost Birmingham to League One.
They would have been down there with Coventry. That would have been quite a nice derby. They would have been playing against Walsall as well, so that would have been crazy. I mean, I don't know about Lee Clark. I don't know. Obviously, they've had financial problems at the club, but what is going on there at the moment? Birmingham City, always been in our lifetimes anyway, a bit of a yo-yo club, but yo-yoing between the Championship and
the Premier League.
Yeah, never quite that far. Not since about the mid-90s, I think. So,
well, we look at some clubs. It's gone either way. I mean, Leicester came down to League One and spent a few seasons in the Championship again, and then are now back up to the Premier League. Norwich and Southampton managed to do it back to back, whereas you've got teams, as you mentioned, Coventry, that went down to League One and haven't been able to escape. So it's a make or break situation to relegate a fall that far for a club, I find, and it's how you adapt to it. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that Coventry can't do that, but there's a lot of extenuating circumstances there. I'm not trying to stick the knife in or anything. That's just the situation as it stands.
The thing is, with relegation, it often means that you've got to slice your budget in half or more. It often means you've got to cope with getting a lot less money in while running a big stadium. And
it makes you look harder for diamonds like diamonds in the rough, because you've got to take out some established product in terms of the players and put in something that's unproven and raw. So you've got to look harder to get the same level of result effectively because you're doing it for less money.
Fortunately, Coventry had a good youth system. But I mean, going back to talking about Birmingham, it was a dramatic survival in the end, and fair play to them because I do like Birmingham. I think they're a bit unlucky to be in the situation they are. The whole thing with Carson Young just got a bit silly, but I was glad to see him stay up, to be honest. So good for the Midlands, I'd say.
I know, and it's incredibly rare to see a Coventry fan admitting his love for Birmingham, so that's quite rare as well.
I wouldn't say love for Birmingham, but no one likes Villa, so it's nice. It's just nice to gang up with someone else on that.
That's true. I guess a common enemy, that's what unites you. And we'll take that as a form of love, I suppose. So we go from the Championship.
Stop saying love. Stop saying love. I didn't say. The only time I've said love is to tell you that I don't love you or Birmingham. Stop putting words in my mouth.
It's not just words I put in your mouth.
Well, that's being cut.
So we go from Tom's.
Love for Birmingham! Love for Birmingham, you!
So we go from Tom's unique emotions for Birmingham City to the heights of the Champions League and the Champions League final. Yet another game that you and I actually watched together, in fact.
Yeah, it was a bonding moment. I mean, I don't know if any of your listeners have ever tried Dutch Rudder, but I would definitely recommend it. And I think, again, we were both disappointed, weren't we? I mean, we both wanted Atletico to win, and they came...
Well, Atletico are my Spanish team, so...
Well, Simon is, of course, part Spanish. We're not exactly sure how or where from, or indeed why, but we do know it's true. And, yeah, it was so disappointing. I mean, Godin got a lovely header. I'm not quite sure what Casillas was doing, but... I
was going to say, that was more Casillas' error than Godin's admittedly fine effort.
Yeah, I thought it was a lovely looper. But I think what you've got to say about that is...
True talent finds a way, and ultimately Real Madrid found a way.
Yeah, but I mean, I was just so devastated for them.
It was tough. It was really tough, especially to have it happen in the death throes of the game in injury time, the equaliser. But
it just took all the stuffing out of them, didn't it?
It did. Ultimately, Real Madrid were able to keep their composure where Atletico Madrid weren't, but they're not used to the winning mentality as such. I mean, they had recently won La Liga, which we'll come to a little later on, for the first time in quite some time for Atletico Madrid. But champions know how to be champions. They develop that nous, that sensibility, that grit, and that it's not something you can buy. It's not something you can purchase. It's just something that you develop through winning again and again and again. And that's what came out today. Well, came out in that game.
Yeah, and I felt, but I did feel very sorry for Athletic, not least because it ended up being 4-1, and they really didn't deserve that.
Although 4-1 was not an accurate reflection of the game, and it's very rare you get to say that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the thing though, mate. At the end of the day, in 5 years' time, people will see the result 4-1 and think they got hammered, whereas actually, yeah, they were clinging on towards the end, but they could have won it in 90 minutes. They just let it slip for 1 second, and then they just got absolutely blown away. I mean, they had one hand on the cup, and it was torn out of their grasp, and they never really recovered.
What impact do you think playing Diego Costa at the start had on the game? Because he was only on there for 7 minutes before they had to take him off, but that did leave Atletico with a sub less. So, did you think that was a telling factor?
I think Simeone's admitted that was a mistake, but with Costa being the player he is, I think a lot of people would take a chance on him. Overall,
I don't know. I wouldn't personally.
They were unlucky in that they had Thuram and Costa injured in the games preceding the final. I mean, those two players fully fit and firing.
Yeah, they're indeed a lot different. But if you can't recover from a hamstring pull in a week, and that's just science. I mean, he's admitted it was a mistake, but some part of him must have known that playing him, he wasn't going to get anything out of it. Some part of him must have suspected that.
Well, I think he probably thought, stick him on for, I don't know, half an hour. If he gets a goal, perfect. And then hoik him off, and it'll be worth it. But obviously it just wasn't going to happen.
I mean, ultimately, as I said, we could only speculate as to what kind of impact Diego Costa would have had if he carried on. And Atletico had the extra sub. Admittedly, they must have had to have used it at some point to get Costa off. There was no way he was going to play the 90 minutes. So,
well, maybe it would have been a better idea just to leave him out of the squad completely and bring on some fresh legs in the second half to help defend, because I think that might have made the difference, because towards the end, Atletico were very weary, and that really told in extra time because they were just torn apart.
And that's where the extra goals came from, indeed, yeah. It's unfortunate for them, and it is annoying that they didn't manage to get both, but ultimately they did get one prize, so it's not a complete write-off for Atletico. It could have been a lot worse. They could have got so close and got nothing. It's
still one of the best managerial achievements of the last 20 years. If you think of the duopoly of Real Madrid and Barcelona, the amount of money those two teams have spent. I mean, Real Madrid over 160 million on just 2 players. And if you think Atleti have spent I don't think they've spent 80 million on their entire squad.
I was going to say that covers their squad and then some.
Yeah, so you've just got to hold your hands up and say congratulations to one of the best achievements we've seen.
True.
I mean,
and I'll tell you what, that Courtois, he had a very good game. I mean, I know when you lose 4-1, you can't say that often about the goalkeeper, but he really did have a fantastic game.
He did. He was unlucky with the penalty. You can't really do much about that. Sergio Ramos's header was absolutely perfect.
No, I was going to say that was top placement. You couldn't have done anything about that.
You've just got, and I think it's very encouraging for Belgium that he's 21 and he's that good already. He's such a good player at that age, and he could be a top player for the next 15 years, maybe or more.
Well, let's put it this way: Dino Zoff lifted the World Cup trophy at the age of 42, 41.
I think he was 41, yeah.
Courtois got another 20 years before he has to think about, being that age, so could get a good another 2 decades out of Courtois if he avoids injury, keeps his health right, doesn't do anything too silly.
Well, we look forward to seeing how he progresses, because of course he is Belgian, and everyone loves the Belgians, especially me.
Oh God, you and Belgian love. Still not allowed in Bruges.
Yeah, well that is love. It's not. I don't love Birmingham, but I do love Belgium. The Impenza brothers write me a card every week, literally every week. Sometimes they alternate it. Sometimes it's Umbo, sometimes it's Emile. Sometimes they write it together. But, it's just nice to see some recognition.
Oh. As I say, Tom Man is, as I said, that is true love. Him and Belgium. I would never need to call it anything else. That there's only one term that adequately matches his feelings towards Belgium and Belgian football. But, as I say, going from such a vast and sweeping declaration of Belgian love, is there anything else? Tom's love for Belgium has left me actually speechless, and it's quite rare for this to happen, but we'll move past that and we'll focus on leagues throughout Europe. I mean, we won't necessarily focus on Belgium. I don't want Tom to go overboard with his love and it's just, exactly. And
tsunami you all with my
knowledge of FC Anderlecht.
Well, I was going to say Royal Antwerp, currently being managed by Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank, and featuring John Bostock in midfield, which is an odd one. But yeah, I mean, which league would you like to talk about first, is what I'm going to say to you.
We kind of touched on La Liga, but I think we just want it in official mid-table crisis terms. We'd like to congratulate Atletico Madrid for doing what no other team has done in quite some time, and win La Liga if you're not Real Madrid or Barcelona. Then you said Bayern Munich, and that was wishful thinking.
I think you've got to say, I was saying earlier, it's one of the best managerial achievements of the last 20 years. It's the equivalent of somebody in about the sort of mid-90s, one of the Scottish teams beating Celtic or Rangers to the title, because it was such a stranglehold that they had over it. Although it was really interesting to see. I don't think any of the top three, Real, Atletico, or Barca, I don't think they won any of the last 3 games, which was really, everyone stuttered and faltered at the final. I mean, you could say, Real Madrid basically already knew it was lost, fielded a slightly weakened team for their last game, so they could have a better team in the final. Maybe Barcelona didn't try quite as hard at the end, because they knew a draw would make sure that Atleti won instead of Real. So you've got it.
I don't know, because a win in the last game would have made Barca champions. So they tried as hard as they could have. I have no.
I thought they were. I thought they wouldn't have been able to win it even with a win.
No, a win, because it's not goal difference that works when you level on points in La Liga. It's head-to-head record, and that win would have made Barca's head-to-head record better, which meant they would have been champions.
Ah, okay then. Yeah, my apologies for my ignorance.
Don't worry, not many people knew that about the head-to-head. I've had to explain that to several different people. It's a weird misnomer compared to obviously the goal difference system we use over here.
Mm-hmm. Although, looking at the table now, it says that Atletico finished on 90 points, while Barcelona finished on 87. So if they drew their last game, then Real Madrid would have finished on. Oh yeah, you are right. Okay.
Yep, don't worry, I know what I'm doing here.
I don't always believe you.
That's true.
Like the
But
time you told me you'd got your hand caught inside that other man's face. But it turned out to be true, and he survived. He now lives in a jar.
Well, what's left of him lives in a jar, but we digress.
We do.
So we've done La Liga. We'll do. Shall we do Serie A next?
Go ahead. And of course,
obviously won by Juventus, who did it in biblical style, losing 2 games in the entire season. I mean, they had a 17-point gap between them and like second place. That's just, in this day and age, that's just phenomenal.
Especially when Roma started, was it 8-9 games unbeaten from the start of the season?
I believe they got into double digits. I think they managed to get 10 plus unbeaten before anything bad happened to.
Either way, unbelievable form. And then Juventus just had the class. I mean, Tevez played very well. He scored a lot of goals for him. Pirlo was imperious. Just an all-round very good team. Strong defensively, like all good Italian teams. They just swept their opponents aside on many occasions.
Oh yeah, I mean you touched on their defensive strength. I mean they conceded just 23 goals in these 38 games. That is impressive.
It is.
There's no bones about that. But the problem is with Juventus, and it's more of a problem with Atletico Madrid. But Juventus seem to be suffering from it slightly at the moment as well. Is a lot of teams are sniffing around their players now, trying to get them to more prestigious or shall we say higher paying leagues and teams.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people are talking about Arturo Vidal and will he move? Paul Pogba, will he move? We bring back to Atletico. There's the certain inevitability that people feel around Diego Costa and some of their back line example as being eyed up by teams like Arsenal and Tottenham, and I believe Liverpool are interested in the left back.
Miranda, or I know United were interested in Miranda.
I think they're interested in Gabby as well. I mean, I would be. I mean, he had a stormer.
Mm.
But Gabby's another one that's attracted a lot of interest. Of course, Courtois is not even theirs. Will he be there next season or not?
I think he's going to go back and demand a place, and fair play to him. If you've won the league, possibly one of the hardest leagues to win. If
you're not Real or Barca.
Yeah, then even if you are Real and Barca, it's not an easy league.
It's not. No, I'm not saying it's as simplistic as that, but let's face it. Look at the records. Yeah,
but I think like Lukaku, maybe he can go back from his loan and say, well, I either get first team football or I'm off, and he'll get plenty of offers. So I think.
Oh no, Courtois in the same boat in that regard. But it's just showing that just because you've won the title this year doesn't mean you're in the strongest position. You can stay in the strongest position. You might fall backwards.
Yeah, the problem with Juventus is that Italian football in general has gone downhill a little bit from the heady days of sort of the mid-90s. These days, it's considered probably definitely third best out of the Spanish and English leagues, if you tally them up, and possibly behind the German leagues as well in some people.
I was going to say the Bundesliga is now, I think, is held in higher esteem now.
And of course, the French league's going from strength to strength with Monaco and PSG. A lot of big players are going there these days. So the Juventus, I think, have probably got enough about them to keep hold of most of their stars. But it's the same old case of, if someone like PSG or Real Madrid come in with a silly bid for one of your players, you're going to have to accept it,
Well, yeah. If it's for 80 million or 86 million, you're going to think about it, aren't you?
Yeah, definitely. So that's what we've got to think about there. I mean, Juventus, of all the Italian teams, Juventus are going to be the ones that can resist the overtures longest. But when it comes to the big boys, someone might just throw them a heap of cash and they can't say no.
I mean, Bayern Munich aren't exactly in that position. They're a wealthy team, and we mentioned the Bundesliga. They won it by 19 points.
Yeah,
but you've even still got some of them. The rumours abounding about some of their players going to Manchester United. Well, and you mentioned PSG. PSG are unique because they're in that ultra wealthy group. I mean, obviously they won Ligue 1, as I believe it's called in French. And indeed. And they've just recently spent 40 million on David Luiz, so that just shows what kind of money they've got spare.
Yeah.
They believe David Luiz is a £40 million player.
I don't think even David Luiz thinks David Luiz is a £40 million player, but he probably had a nice big signing on fee as well. I think if
we were touching briefly last podcast on how Yaya Toure could be used in a defensive midfield role. I think that's hopefully what they're going to do with David Luiz. I think that's the best fit for him in that team.
Yeah, I don't think he's a good centre back about 90% of the time, and then he'll just try something a little bit silly, or he'll just lose his head a little bit, and he'll cost you a goal, and he'll do that, over the course of a season in more than one game, possibly in some important games. So, yeah, have him protecting the defence maybe. Let him express himself a little bit more in midfield, but don't stick him in at centre back because he's not.
No,
he's not a reliable kind of player, is he?
He's not exactly. I don't see. If I saw him in my back line, I would be going, you know what, we're all right here, lads. We'll be like, oh. God.
Well, to be fair, if you saw him lining up against Ben Cullen and Jonesy on your team, you'd probably be all right. But when we're talking professional football, yeah, he's not what you.
I don't know.
A world-class centre back.
Yeah, true. We didn't exactly play in the most prestigious league around, but still.
I don't know. The Nuneaton League is pretty highly rated. Chris Socket, formerly of Hinckley United, as you'll all know.
Look him up, boys and girls. Look him up, because Christ knows I'll have to.
Yeah, I'm not even sure if there's any data on him. He might as well be a ghost.
So, we go from such prestigious players as Chris Socket to, shall we cover some actual stars of this footballing season, Tom, instead?
Yeah, I mean, we'll just briefly touch on Ligue 1. Of course, PSG did win it. You were talking about how they are insanely rich, but Monaco, they're not particularly poor either. I think there's going to be some interesting spending from those two clubs. But yeah, Ibrahimovic.
Do you think that's going to become like La Liga, as in only those two teams can realistically compete?
It may do, but I wouldn't be surprised if someone else comes in for a different club, maybe. I don't know, Lyon or Marseille or someone of that ilk. Who's
now Lyon have the structure certainly. And Marseille have the fan base. So they are good potential investment options. It's whether someone takes them up. That's the issue.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. Otherwise, yeah, it could just become a duopoly. But it's difficult to predict.
It's a great word, that, duopoly, isn't it?
It's lovely. It's lovely stuff. Word of the day. I'm not sure if France is the perfect place for a rich businessman owner to go to. I mean, I don't think England is either because of the amount of rich teams that are there already. But what I would say is that unless something big happens there, it's just going to be passed between Monaco and PSG for the next 10 years at least.
Oh, as I say, I mean, unfortunately, I do have to agree with you. It's going to be very difficult if the current situation stands for other teams to break that stranglehold. I hope that one does. I mean, I think that's why many people love the fact that Atletico won this year for La Liga. Because it was someone different. And everyone backs the underdog.
Everyone does back the underdog. I certainly do.
The players we're going to look at now aren't exactly underdogs. They're established stars, but they're ones that have really dazzled us this season. We touched on this briefly last season when we talked a bit about Yaya Toure's form, but your breakout stars of this season, who are they, Tom?
I was very, very much impressed by Barkley. I think he's been brilliant. I really hope that he's playing a lot when it comes to Brazil. And he was very impressive. And in the same breath, I've got to mention Aaron Ramsey, who we already know the name of, but I think it's been a long time. He showed a lot of promise on at Chelsea. At Celtic, sorry. And Evans.
Cardiff, dear.
What did I say? Celtic.
You said Celtic.
Yeah, my bad. Yeah, I meant Cardiff. I knew it was a C. He showed a lot of potential there, and he showed flashes here and there, and he had a horrific injury. So it's really good to see him having a really good season. Obviously, that was a little bit interrupted by injury as well, but he's won the FA Cup, and he really showed what he's capable of. So that was really good to see.
Yeah, as I say, those two are good candidates. I'd like to say that in terms of established stars, I mean, this one's painfully obvious, but one of us has to say it. Eden Hazard. What a season. The man was incredible from start to finish. Just on another planet at some games.
Yeah, I think he's a large part of the large reason why Chelsea managed to stay in the title race for so long, because they really didn't have much up front at all, did they? So they're relying on Oscar and Willian and Hazard to score the goals for him, and he really took that upon himself, and he scored and made a lot of goals from this season.
Indeed, because of the performances of Hazard and some of the others. I mean, you mentioned Willian; he had some great games. Oscar, he did some of his goals were incredible. They nearly won a league without a proper striker when you think about it.
Yeah, Bar is not a sort of a top four player. Torres looked.
Eto's done his best, but it's not the best. It's not his best efforts by any stretch, and he's not going to get any better. Torres, You're right. He's another player who's not what he was.
Yeah, and well, obviously Eto's past his best. I think all people were expecting of him was sort of maybe 10 goals maximum, because at the age he's at, he's not going to be really playing 35 games a season, and he's not going to be scoring 20 goals a season. He's obviously got to that age now.
It's a bit of a shame, because I always liked Samuel Eto'o and I wanted to see him in the Premier League, and now it's happened. It's not at the point where he's at his pomp, and I'm just a bit.
No, but he did score a hat-trick against Manchester United, which was nice to see. And he'd get a few good goals. I mean, of course, it was quite disappointing, because you think of him at Barcelona and Inter Milan. He was rip-roar in form, and now he eventually did come maybe 5 years too late. But it's good. It's good that he can be remembered for some good things. It wasn't like he turned up and I don't know, a bit like Davos Schuker or I don't know, maybe Ivan Campo didn't have the best of times here. I was a big fan of Campo too, but towards the end, I think he had 3 seasons here. Maybe towards the end, he just looked a little bit silly.
Towards the end, perhaps, but come on, he did great for us at the start. All right, I can't have it. I can't have him as a write-off. I just can't, mate.
I'm not writing him off. I'm just saying that he was a very good player, but I'd have wished he'd come maybe 3 years earlier.
Oh well, true. There's some players. I can see your point there, I suppose. So we've talked mostly about midfield and attacking players. Is there a defensive player that's caught your eye this season?
I'd have to say Luke Shaw's been brilliant. I mean, I know he's quite an attacking fullback, but
a fullback nonetheless.
Yeah, he's really been impressive, and it's good to see him in the England squad. Leighton Baines as well, of course. He's been doing great work for Everton as usual. He's a really, really solid player. You're going to get some assists out of him. He's experienced.
Great penalty record too.
Yeah, great penalties. Not bad from free kicks as well. Gets the odd one. I do remember, I think he got 2 in one game and everyone went a bit crazy about him. His record's not that good, but he does knock one in now and again. You can't really argue with that. And I'd say...
I think if you want a good defensive player this season, you've just got to look at how bad Man City were when Vincent Kompany didn't play compared to when he did.
Yeah, I'd say...
It proves again that quality's permanent there for him.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a good season and he's a great player. But what I would say is maybe not a good year for defences, not a good season for defences. If you think of some of the defending that went on over at Norwich and, some of Fulham's defending was ridiculous. They ended up conceding about 90 goals. And even fallen giants like Man United, I mean, some of their defending, obviously Vidic and Ferdinand are, not the players they once were. And a lot of the time they barely were getting in the team, and when they did, they didn't look stable, half the force they used to. Yeah, so there was a lot of dodgy defending going on.
Well, you're right. In terms of defending, we've seen better defensive teams, certainly, like the Unbeatables and the early Mourinho teams. Mourinho's Chelsea lost games this season you just couldn't have envisioned them losing before. They lost their home undefeated streak, for God's sakes.
Yeah, that was crazy.
That game's one of the reasons I'm not, significantly richer, because it was Sunderland that beat the streak, and in that process and able to keep themselves up. So we've not seen the greatest of defending from even established sides this season.
No, oh, and one thing I must mention as well. Not really a breakout start. Well, I suppose maybe Connor Wickham had, what a run into the season. He was scoring goals left, right, and centre, having been indifferent for a lot of his Sunderland career. He was out on loan for a lot of it as well.
Sheffield Wednesday, he was at.
Yeah, he came back in and he scored something like 5 goals in 3 games, I think. He was a large
Turned
part.
It round.
He was a large part of the reason they stayed up, and congratulations to Gus Poyet as well.
Of course, we do love a bit of Gus over here.
Big Gus. And congratulations to Sunderland as well, because some of the teams, I know we've spoken about this a little bit, but some of the teams that they went up against in that horrific run-in, and they managed to take points off. Manchester City and Chelsea, it would have been tough for any team to go there and get something out of it, but they did it, and they really needed to, and now they've survived. So big congratulations. Truly
a thing of beauty. I mean, and I think that's a nice little rejoinder to end it. I mean, we have gone a little bit backwards, but there you are. There's our breakout stars of this season. I mean, established and non-established. So, I mean, it's really hard to say. That is the end of the season from the point of view of mid-table crisis, I suppose. I mean, thankfully we've got a little kickabout coming soon that we'll do a little bit on. Perhaps you guys have heard of it, the World Cup. So it's not like we're going to be away for a long period of time.
Yeah, I was going to say as well, we might be talking about the end of the season, but we've got a massive competition to come up. And also, we will be bringing out another episode soon. So we might be looking back a little bit occasionally, talking about the season that's just gone, especially if we're talking about players from the World Cup that have been very important this season.
Certainly. I mean, Tom's gone for the overhype approach. I was trying to downplay it quite coquettishly, but the long and short of it is, we're not leaving you, listeners. We'll be around. Don't worry about that.
It's like I'm a needy girlfriend, and he's trying to reassure me that he's not going to run off with the cleaner. It's all right, Simon. I know. Why did you get that tattoo of my face?
On my own face. That was the horrific part.
We look like morphed twins. It's vile and disgusting.
Like a budget face-off.
I think that might be a good place to end it. So I'll save your ears and look forward to the next one, which should be coming out soon. But this has been Mid-Table Crisis with me, Tom Patrick.
And me, Simon Cross. Have a good night, children.
Take care of yourselves. Don't let me in your door.
Bye-bye.